What's up, everybody? I'm upstairs in the movie room hallway. I've been working on this for a while. It's taken me a long time to get this done, at least the video anyway. I've had this wall painted for a while, but wanted to add a electrical cover to kind of match my Star Wars inspired light control. So I've seen a lot of guys do these Death Star walls out of like real panels and put lights behind them and everything, but it's way too time consuming and costly for me to do it up here. And also this hallway is such a weird hallway with the pitched roof on the other side of me. You can't see it, it's over here. It's just such a weird area, and I didn't want the wall to be too thick, to come out too thick. So I did the poor man's route, and I just painted the Death Star wall panels on here. So I think it came out pretty cool. You can see I got some stuff up. It kind of blends in. The whole wall is Star Wars inspired, but I got all my Marvel stuff up here. So it's kind of like a mix of both worlds, you know. So I hope you liked the video. I'll show you how I painted that, and I'll see you in a minute.
Alright, so to start out, I got some of my measurements down. I found a blueprint online that kind of gave out the rough the numbers, what these panels should be in between, how long they should be, and the overall like shape of the pattern. And so I just kind of transferred that to my wall with a big ruler, and I got those all, that first row drawn out there just so I could tell if that was going to be what I wanted it to be and if it would all fit on that wall. So after that I would just go through and I would mark out the spacing in between the light panels. I would mark the centers and the edges, and then using my big ruler here I would hold it up, and then I would just draw the straight line just to kind of mark out where it needed to be. I found this little cup I had that was the exact size of the circle I needed for the light panel. So I would trace the light panel square, and then I would hold this up and I would just trace the round at the top just to round it out. And that actually worked really well. I wouldn't have wanted to draw those by hand and try to get them all to match the same kind of circle. That would be almost impossible. So now this is sped up a little bit, and I am just going through it. I'm just marking out all my spacings in between, so that I can try to draw these panels as quickly as possible. This did take a while, honestly. This is like I said, it's a little cheaper, obviously, because it's paint and it's not paneling and cutting out. I know those guys that do like the actual panels, they cut all the holes out, and that takes forever. But this is a little bit. This is probably doesn't take as long, honestly. But there's a lot of little details and steady handwork that you have to use. Unless you tape it, you could tape it. I always shy away from taping because I hate masking. So I kind of showed you a little close-up view there of some of my markings and my sizes. But now I'm going through with just this gray. This is the same gray paint that I bought when we bought the house. This is the paint that I painted in my office. And I have a ton of it left. So I figured I would just use it instead of mixing up a color or buying a new color. And it's a pretty good gray anyway. I think the Death Star paneling is a little bit darker, but I'm not too bothered by it, honestly. It came out pretty good. This is sped up, but you can see how I use the corner side of my brush, and I do like this straight line first, then I go back through and I fill in all the in-betweens. And then here's a closer view of how I actually paint it, and this is literally the the time it took for like each one. So that sped up version really like kind of hides the fact that this is a long process. And the thing that is annoying is that it's 2 coats. You need to put 2 coats on to make it a solid color and not leave streaks and stuff. So I knew that like after I painted the first couple that like, oh man, I'm gonna have to go back and put more coats of paint on. The left side of the panel is a lot harder to paint, being right-handed. You're trying to keep your hands straight, and it's not really. I'm used to using like my side of my hand to like brace, and obviously you can't do that. So now I knew I wanted to paint this trim board too to match the wall. I didn't want to leave it this wood. So this is just an example of how you can do this. If you didn't want to take the paneling off, I ended up taking the paneling off just because it's so much quicker and you can just roll it. But you can just shove a little piece of cardboard underneath, and so you don't get anything on your carpet or your wood floor or whatever you got. But I just took the paneling off and rolled it with a roller, and then popped it back on with a couple nails. So now I can go through with the white. This is some really good interior white paint. It's thicker because it's designed to cover like trim board and stuff in fewer coats. So I ended up putting like 3 coats of the white on, and I did all the white coats first after that first coat of gray, because I knew I would have some over brush marks like over that I would have to trim up and kind of clean up later. But while that dries, I'm going through here with my my tiny roller, because apparently I left all my big rollers over at my sister's house when I was helping her paint, and all I had at my house was this little tiny roller. So I'm using that to go through here, paint this whole wall with this tiny roller. So here I have some of the panels taped off with tape. Same thing I did with those. I went through and I marked where I wanted them to go, and just kind of marked out the spacing and stuff. Now, this is the last time I used this airbrush. I have bought a new airbrush currently, but this is the last time that I use this airbrush, and this is why. It just wouldn't spray right. I don't think this airbrush has enough air pressure. I've had this brush for a while. It's a really good brand too, which is why I don't understand. And yeah, so I did that. It just would spray it all over the place. This was getting so. I was getting so irritated. But what I ended up doing is I watered down some of that gray with some black paint, and I watered it down, and I just used my rag here to just dab around the thing. What I'm doing is I am trying to fake shadow lines. So if you have a raised panel, and obviously you're gonna have like the shadow of the panel underneath that you would see. So really all I'm trying to do is just darken it up a little bit to make it look like it's 3-dimensional. Try to make it look like the panels are higher off the back of that wall. And it's not too bad. If you had an airbrush, you could really get it more realistic. But I get to the point sometimes where like I really like finesse stuff, and I get overwhelmed. And then at the end of the day, I just realized that the whole point of this wall is just it's just to look cool, but also I'm gonna be displaying stuff on it anyway. So you're not really going to see all the detail that I spend, all this time painting. You're not going to see it all. And that can be kind of disheartening too. Because I had stuff on this wall, I knew that's what I was going to do. And then while I'm putting all this time and effort into painting this wall, I say to myself, well, I don't want to put anything on this wall. I spent all this time doing this wall. Why do I want to cover it up? But at the end of the day, that was kind of the whole point. So I have to try to fight myself on that, because that's just a natural thing. But so honestly, this wall is painted and I have all my stuff on this wall, and it looks really cool, and I'm really happy with it. It's a cool like hallway entry into like the future movie room, and it's just cool. It's just it came out pretty cool, and I'm really happy with it. So these boxes up here on the top, they're supposed to be like recessed panels, like they go like in. So again, I'm trying to fake that look of it being like have some depth, have some like darker shadows in there, because it goes into the wall technically. You can see it's a lot of masking and a lot of cutting to get these panels. So then after everything, I go through with some of that same dark gray, and now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put shadows on these panels, and so the circles at the top, I put heavier lines at the top of the circle, because if you're looking at it, you would see the inside of that cut at the top, and vice versa on the bottom. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to do here is make a electrical cover. As you guys saw in a previous video, I have that light switch box, and it's really cool. And then on the bottom of the floor, I just have this, basic electrical panel, and it just doesn't fit. So I made a template. This is just some 5mm EVA foam. I cut out the basic shape, and now I'm cutting out the panel lines out of some 2mm craft foam and a couple other shapes. I looked at a bunch of references, and I just kind of drew something that I thought was interesting, something that just has that Star Wars feel. So now I'm gluing that all together, just using some contact cement, trying to line up the flimsy little panel line on top. This is really easy to like twist and warp the shape of it, especially if it like falls and grabs the glue and it sticks and you try to like peel it up. It can be a nightmare, so I just always make sure that I go super slow. I'm just trying to match the corners, honestly, is what I'm doing. You can see though how just a few little panels and shapes really makes a difference. So I have these little circles, these EVA foam circles that I have cut out from my foam with, sometimes I use like a Sharpie cap and use it to cut through, and sometimes I use like a piece of PVC pipe that I've sharpened to cut out circles. So the thing that I did on the back is I sanded out like where the screws go on the electrical panel, just so it doesn't sit weird against the wall, so it actually will sit flush against those. I gave that all a few coats of gray Plasti Dip, and now I'm going through with some silver and just putting some details on here, just making some of these silver panels. I paint all the circles silver. After you get all the silver details on there, I go through and I paint some weathering, just adding some chips and flakes to the edges. Then I go through and I paint these smaller circles gold, just to give it a little bit of difference between the gray and the silver. Then I go through and I give it a brown wash. My bottle of wash opened up and went all over my table, so I'm just brushing it off of that and trying not to waste it. I make sure I give the whole thing a good coat, including the edges and the sides there and inside the where the actual electrical outlet will go. Then I take my rag and I just slowly start to dab at it. I don't ever wipe with the rag. I don't want like pull streaks look unnatural. So if you just dab at it, it leaves like a little bit of texture and helps take all the high spots off. Alright, so now I'm using a little bit of hot glue here, just like I did with the light panel up top. A little bit of hot glue, make sure I get those outlets pushed through first, and then stick it to the wall. And that is the finished wall. I will go back and paint those outlets a different color at some point. But yeah, you can see just a little bit of paint. You really can sell a Star Wars wall like the Death Star wall. I'm really happy with it. I think it looks really cool. It's like I said, it's kind of like both of my favorite things. So it's Star Wars and Marvel. It's got all of the cool stuff on there. So I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you next time.